working on transplanting some chili today. This is a capsicum annuum. I believe this is a big gym variety. So what I'm going to be doing is transplanting these. We got them from the fields out there by mile marker 10 over in Las Cruces going towards Doñana. And we're going to be transplanting them. I'm going to be transplanting them, waiting for them to grow, waiting for them to take, get to the 6 to 8 leaf stage. So, got a little bit longer to go. But then they believe, the farmer that we're working with believes that this might be a resistant variety to one of the more major pathogens of chili called Phytophthora, which it's fungal-like in morphology, but it is technically considered a water mold, or in the same class as, maybe not class, but classification anyways, as algae. It produces these asexual spores called sporangia that then release the sexual spores called zoospores, and they have little tails on them called flagella that will actually swim through the water. The flagella allows them to swim through the water, so they're a waterborne. They're a soil-borne pathogen, but they spread by water, and it affects the plant. It starts the stem starts to girdle. I mean, you can't see it because these aren't infected, but when they do get infected, unless this is a resistant variety, the stem will start to brown, blacken, girdle, and then essentially they'll die. So one of the things we do after we inoculate them, inoculate is just a fancy term for introducing the fungal species, the Phytophthora species, to the plant, to the soil. Once we're done doing that, then we have a rating scale, 0 to 6. 0 meaning that there's no symptoms at all of the Phytophthora. We're not seeing any symptoms of Phytophthora at all. Or 6, all the way up to 6, meaning that they've died. The entire plant has died, and therefore is not susceptible to Phytophthora. So one of the other projects I'll be talking about, coming up soon in a couple episodes. This is just kind of a rough draft of the first episode. I plan to kind of do both types of podcasts or vlogs or whatever they're called, where actually sitting down, talking to people, interviewing people, asking them about certain things going on in their life, and then there's going to be another part of the podcast where, or vlog, or whatever you want to call it, if you want to be, correct about it, where I will be talking about my research, talking about plants, just anything botanical, biological, pertaining particularly to the Southwest, because that's where my expertise in plants and plant pathology lies. I am a botanist by education. I've done field botany. I have 3 different books that have been published on tree identification. I'll talk about those too in future episodes. But for now, I just kind of want to see how the direction I really kind of want this podcast to go. So I want a little bit of structure, so it's not all over the place, but at the same time, I want it to vary. I want to be able to talk about things that aren't just plants. I want to get scientists and writers and engineers and all kinds of different people to talk about stuff that they're working on. I have my master's in plant and environmental science, so I know a good portion of the scientific community, and now working in Dr. Sonogo's lab, I have access to farmers. I work up close and personal with farmers as well. So I'd really like to, build it up, get some different people involved, not just plant people, like I said, pretty much anybody that has anything to say about, the direction they go in life. I feel as though you can really learn something from anybody, because another person is going to know something that you just don't know. And if you're wise, you should take the opportunity to learn different things from different people, get different perspectives on different things, offer them your perspective on things, and then just kind of go from there, build a relationship, build a bond from there. And I feel like it's very important, to understand that kind of stuff. But again, this is just a little sample, getting the beak wet on how some of the podcast is going to go. And then, like I said, once I can start, once I generate enough interest and I can start getting guests on and stuff like that, have people talk about their specific things. I know a lot of cool people that are doing a lot of cool stuff. A lot of people working in the lab that I'm working in, doing different things, but with ultimately the same goal as I have, which is fighting off these soil-borne diseases. So I'm hoping to have some of those people on the cast, let them know. I'm still trying to think of a freaking name. I still don't really know what to call it. I kind of like the whole Sleepy Bee, the Sleeping Bee podcast, or Sleepy Bee podcast. I feel like it's got kind of a ring to it, but I feel like that's also just kind of a name. It doesn't really have any, it kind of has a little bit of implication on where the podcast is going to go. Like, we're talking about nature, we're talking about, and when I say we, a lot of times, it's just going to be me and whoever else is interested in actually coming on the podcast and sharing some stories and, stuff, shit like that. But I feel like, people are doing some cool shit out there, and I really want people to be recognized for the work that they do, So again, this is just kind of a dipping the toes in, seeing what the future holds for this particular podcast, or at least trying to find a way to go about it. I'm still trying to figure out a setup too. I still don't really know exactly what I'm going to do in terms of the setup. I only have one mic right now. Right now, obviously, I'm not home. I'm in the greenhouse, recording all the stuff, all the transplants that I'm doing right now. I'm going to kind of reorganize my house a little bit and try to have a nice little setup where it's not just a clusterfuck of stuff behind me that you're looking at, but actually a nice little clean space. The problem is there's not really a lot of space. Like I have a bunch of space in my living room, but a lot of that is dedicated to floor mats and punching bags and shit like that, so I can practice my martial arts when I'm not at the dojo. But beyond that, it's just I gotta find a nice space. I have a room for my son, which he barely uses, but it's still his room, so I kind of want to keep it that way. I have my room, whatever, there's not a lot of space there. I kind of wish I had a third bedroom just so I could set something like this up, but I never really thought about doing a podcast before. I was supposed to do one with my friend Lauren, but she's busy. She's working like 50 hours a week, and maybe at some point me and her can, we'll merge and do a single podcast, or our own podcast together, which would, mostly be directed at plants and stuff like that. She works at a flower farm, so, I'm sure she wouldn't mind coming on the cast once I have tables and chairs and shit like that set up, for her to tell her story about working on a flower farm, because it's completely different. You would think that growing plants is all kind of the same, but it's not. It's really different. Whether you're going to be a cannabis farmer, whether you're going to just work on the flower farm, working with cut flowers and floriculture, whether you're working with plant disease, whether you're working with landscaping. There's so many different avenues for this particular discipline, and that, to me, that's what makes it kind of interesting. But and I try to get people involved too. I try not to force people, but with the whole COVID thing, people started really kind of getting into plants. I talked about that. My buddy Pat has a podcast that I appeared on once, and he's actually kind of the driving force behind why I wanted to start my own. So Pat, if you're out there, you're listening, then you're the role model, bro. So I appreciate you, and we can do each other's podcasts. I've already done yours. You can come on mine. I don't know how often you make it down to cruises, but we can always just kind of figure some shit out. I don't know. Zoom is an excellent tool. I have plenty of friends that are out of state, actually, that are working on some cool shit that I'd like to get on the podcast as well. So again, this is just introduction. I don't even know if I would call this episode 1 or if I would just call it a prelude, to the first episode. But just kind of wanted to touch on a little bit of the stuff that I'm doing today, working with these transplants, and then what I'm doing with them, and again, just kind of see how the video comes out and what I can make of it. See if I can generate any interest, in this podcast in general. And I assume like the first episode is going to be slow. The first few episodes are going to be slow, but then once I can actually get people on and get people interested and kind of make a presence known, hopefully more people just kind of watch or listen and just get interested in the shit that's that's going on in my world and my guest world. But I don't even know if I'm going to post this video, or if I'm just kind of fucking around and seeing, what's going on with it. But anyways, that should be enough for right now anyways. The podcast will get longer once I have more shit to talk about, or, stuff like that. But for now, I'll leave it at that. And I, hope to see you guys in future episodes once I get the fucking ball rolling. So, alright, thanks. Peace.